we get worried, really worried when sleep isn't going well. And when we switch that from concern to curiosity, we can be asking ourselves, what does this tell me about what my baby needs? Because when we ask it that way, it becomes less about trying to shut down or lock down a problem. And instead, it's going to more the root of what's happening.
Welcome to the Baby Sleep Connection, a podcast that explores baby sleep and more through the lens of attachment and development. I'm your host, Heather Boyd. I'm a mom of 3, an occupational therapist, and a certified infant and family sleep specialist. If you are a tired parent who wants to support your baby's sleep holistically, keep listening as we delve into approaches that go well beyond the usual strategies of wake windows and bedtime routines. Your baby's sleep is connected with so much more. Before we jump into today's episode, I wanted to share with you a new theme happening at the Baby Sleep Connection podcast. About once a month, we are running an Ask and Answer episode. What this means is I get a chance to answer your questions about baby sleep or sleep challenges that you're having. If you want to submit a question, go to familysleep.ca/podcast and look for the Ask and Answer button. I look forward to answering your question soon. Welcome back to the Baby Sleep Connection podcast. And I have on my mind today talking about how challenging it can be to figure out what your baby needs. I remember it feeling like such a puzzle to me in the early days and weeks of my firstborn, where I just thought, what is it that you need? Like, what is it? A diaper? Is it a feed? Is it sleep? What is it that you need? And I know what a challenge it can be because there's no little ticker tape message across our baby's foreheads telling us what it is that we can do to make things better, whether things are sleep related, whether it's mood or crying or colic. And so I want to talk today about using sleep as one of the clues and to figure out what if what your baby needs is actually being communicated through their sleep. What if sleep is the language that they're using to guide you in understanding what they need? This is really about listening, not fixing, because I know when sleep is a challenge, it is the biggest pain point. It is feeling like it is the only thing that matters because it feels excruciating to not have enough. It is difficult having interrupted nights or to have a really difficult time settling your baby. So I want us to take a step back. And even though sleep is the priority or can feel like the only thing, I want you to flip it as being sleep is the sign or sleep is the communication or language that helps guide us in understanding what our babies need. Now, of course, there are many other ways babies communicate to us, but let's look at it through this lens of communication and see what we can find today. So I have a few things I want to cover with that theme. And the first is to follow the clues. So sleep has clues, not commands. Sleep is not there to tell us what to do, it's to give us a little bit of a peek at what's going on. And I want to give a couple of examples. When you have short naps or late bedtimes, or they're waking up super early, it can feel like that is the problem. But those are actually messages. Those are indicators for us that we can follow, kind of like breadcrumbs through the forest. And I know when sleep is the challenge, like any of those things, short naps or skipping naps or nap resistance, late bedtimes, any of it, it can feel like that is the thing you should put all your attention on fixing, when really what it is telling us something. And if we can listen, we can figure out what it's telling us, then maybe we can come to a solution that might be a little unexpected. And the outcome is that communication changes, that resistance to naps or the late bedtime starts to melt away and get a little bit easier, not because you worked on it directly, but because you heard what that was saying, what that was telling you, so that you can make sleep a little bit easier as the outcome. The patterns we see from our baby's sleep give us insight, right? That's really the essence of it, into what our babies need developmentally and what they need emotionally. Also what they need physically, of course, and if they're in any discomfort or they're teething or they are going through a growth spurt and are feeding voraciously, those are going to be signs or patterns too. I'd like to point out, and maybe this came through in what I've just said, but I really want to make it very clear,
the message that sleep challenges may be communicating may not be about sleep needs at all, right? What is sleep communicating? Well, it might be communicating a need for sleep or being overslept, but it could also mean that babies are needing more connection. It may mean they need more safety and security, to have more closeness, to not have separation because they are feeling out of sorts and vulnerable when they are alone, whether that is solo sleeping or whether it is simply through falling asleep and being less aware that you were there in the first place. It could also, of course, be communicating a lot about what is happening developmentally. We often talk to parents about how it's almost like firecrackers going off in the brain when there's a big developmental milestone your baby is moving towards, whether that's crawling. I had a kiddo that crawled in his sleep when he was learning how to sleep. It was a wild time, but it could also be they're on the verge of walking, or they're having an explosion in language development or an explosion in social emotional development. This is keeping the brain really busy. And part of sleep is cleaning up all this learning that they're doing and organizing it. And so when sleep is very immature and easily interrupted, then we're going to see interruptions based on development. So it may be communicating that developmental leaps are happening. And if that's what's happening, it's not about sleep at all. It's about what we can do during the day to let that unfold as it should, unfold as easily as it can by supporting the developmental piece of it. But when sleep and a million other things that could be happening is going well, the clues that we are going to see are that babies are going to be falling asleep more easily. They're easier to settle when they do wake up, and they're waking up appearing well rested, content. I won't say happy. I know some babies wake up like happy with the world. Others are a little bit more melancholic or sanguine. They may just simply be content and satisfied with the world. When you have a period of time where you have rocky sleep, difficult sleep, it's a sign or an outcome. It's not always the actual problem. So saying that sleep is a sign and not the problem is like acknowledging that when your older kiddo hits the baby, I mean, yes, hitting the baby is a problem, but there's more going on. It's actually a sign. And if you don't solve what the hitting is actually telling you, then you're going to be trying to stop the hitting without stopping the reason or resolving the reason that it's happening. You don't just say, don't hit the baby. You look at, what is the hitting telling you? What is it that your child is expressing? And can you tackle that or resolve that instead of directly just curtailing the hitting and finding that you're having to curtail the hitting like 20 times a day? The same thing applies to sleep. Let sleep be the sign that there is something to support or resolve or ride through, of course, because if it's developmental, it's about riding through and supporting. So, what is sleep actually communicating? How can we translate the clues that our baby is sharing with us? Now, this is a short list because, of course, part of approaching or resolving sleep challenges is to really look under the hood and look at all the pieces that contribute to why this is showing up. But let's go through the usual suspects, I'll say. Frequent waking. I would say that's one of, if not the primary reason families are reaching out to me is frequent waking. Of course, it could be discomfort. There could be teething or gas issues. Your baby could be going through a growth spurt and just have extra hunger. And I mention that because often families, just like with sleep and the expectation that it's going to be linear, they expect feedings to drop in a linear way too. But it's going to go up when babies are growing, and frequent wake ups can indicate that. Or it can be stress, that there's a lot of change, whether that change is actually something that stresses you out or whether it is something that simply throws them off. You're fine with it. You're adaptable to vacation or you're adaptable to a change in your family's schedule or routine. But maybe to your baby, that's a bit discombobulating. If your baby is hard to settle, it could be that they're overtired or undertired, because if they're overtired, they might have a bit of that spike of stress hormone that makes it hard to settle. If they're undertired, they're simply not ready for bed yet. But they could also simply have missed that little sweet spot of when sleep kind of falls into place and they're in that zone of wakefulness where the body doesn't actually let you fall asleep. So that being hard to settle may just indicate that the timing is off a little bit and you missed the sweet spot a little bit earlier, but you're just going to have to wait for the next one to come around. Or hard to settle could be that your baby needs more connection too, or that the kind of connection that they need with you has shifted as they've grown. Short naps are also a frequent challenge for the families that are reaching out to me. And it could simply be translated as your baby is still developing sleep cycles, that they can't link those sleep cycles yet and they need a little bit of support. It could mean that sleep needs are met for that period of sleep, or that they need some more support regulating or bridging those sleep cycles, or simply that they haven't been awake long enough yet to have enough sleep pressure. So lastly, I did want to touch on what you can learn to understand sleep without needing to have all the answers. You don't need to be fluent in the language of sleep to be able to use the clues that your baby is giving around sleep to support you. I like to look at curiosity being more trumping concern. So we get worried, really worried when sleep isn't going well. And when we switch that from concern to curiosity, we can be asking ourselves, what is this telling me? What does this tell me about what my baby needs for sleep, for daytime routine or activities? What do they need from me in terms of connection or feeding or reassurance or proximity? Because when we ask it that way, it becomes less about trying to shut down or lock down a problem. And instead, it's going to more the root of what's happening. Again, what is sleep telling us that can help guide us in figuring out how to make life easier and sleep easier? When we look at it through that lens of curiosity, we can look more at whether our baby is expressing that they're feeling vulnerable, they don't feel safe. Even if you are providing for all their needs, if there is a lot going on in their body or there's a lot of changes happening around them, or they're going through a social emotional leap in development that broadens their world and their awareness around them, they're going to be coming back home to safety and security and proximity from you, especially during the most vulnerable times. And sleep is arguably the most vulnerable time for a baby. And so upping that level of how do I help my baby feel relaxed and safe and secure? And it may be that we look at proximity, like, do you need to be closer? Do there need to be any shifts in the environment, the setup of what is happening around sleep, what the setup of the physical environment is? These are all pieces that you can start using when you start paying attention to sleep as a language. Now, in closing, I want to reiterate that sleep can feel like the problem because it's the one that hurts when we're not getting enough of it. It is the focus of our attention often. It's the thing we want to put all our, if sleep were a basket, all the eggs are going in the sleep basket. And really, it's just, again, it's a language. It's telling us something. It's often the clue that tells you what your baby needs. Now, sometimes that something, that thing that it's telling us about is sleep itself. Sleep needs, routines, timing of sleep, overall sleep, like what's the total sleep in 24-hour period. But sometimes it's developmental and sometimes it's expressing needs around safety and security. And so I'm going to challenge you this week to look at your baby's sleep through a lens of curiosity. So switch concern into curiosity. Ask the questions of what is this telling me? And I also challenge you to look at what is it that you can do in or outside of sleep that allows the sleep language to express something different, that use sleep as the measure of whether you're picking up on what that need is. Now, I will also reiterate something that I said in last week's episode on schedules and routines, that even when all the things that you can see or that you can think of or that you have control over, even when all of those things are in place, sleep may still be rocky because sleep may also be communicating development in general. And when it's developmental, it is about riding through and supporting them and yourself as best as you can through a developmental shift or rocky period. If sleep is communicating a developmental shift, it really is like I always picture families locking themselves into a roller coaster, making sure that safety net is there, the bar is down, and making sure that you're supporting yourself to get through a rough sleep period. Because, of course, when it's developmental, it's not meant to be fixed, it's meant to be supported. I encourage you to reach out and let me know whether anything from this podcast episode has really resonated with you. And if you do take the time this week to really look at sleep as a language. What is it that has come up for you or made this shift in the way that you're thinking about sleep? How has that supported you? Until next time, I wish you restorative and longer pieces of sleep. I hope your baby is at a stage where you're seeing that sleep is communicating to you in a way that allows you to support them to make it easier for you and them. Until next time, have a good night's sleep. And until next time, best wishes for restorative sleep. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me on this episode. I do hope that you found the information and perspectives in this podcast episode helpful to you as you navigate your baby's sleep development. Of course, this podcast provides general information and it isn't tailored to your family's reality or the specific needs of your baby. If you're concerned about your baby's sleep or health, be sure to reach out to your healthcare provider. If you're feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and you need a place to feel nurtured and reassured, you can find me on Instagram at familysleep.ca. Until next episode, look for the connections that support you and your baby.